Two.
What's going on, world? Hope all is well. Much love. It's your man, Cool Hunter. See, I got my guy, Matthew C Horne in here again, bringing another conversation to y'all. Tonight, we're addressing black men in the modern dating space with a strong emphasis on destroying all false narratives that apply to black men or don't apply, but are said about black men in relationships. So, Matt, how you feeling, champ?
We in here, man. We in here, Cool Hunter. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure, man. You know what I'm saying? So
you already know, my brother from another.
Yeah, we in here. Just do it real quick. How you want me to do it? Matthew C Horne on all platforms. At Matthew C Horne, IG, X, Facebook. As far as YouTube, Matthew C Horne Dating. Have those videos coming to you on a daily basis with that elevated perspective on the dating game. My books are available at my website, www.matthewchorne.com. How to get beautiful women and everything else you want from life. In addition to how to be appealing to successful black men for black women. Get your copies, matthewchorne.com. Dating coaching, email me at matt@matthewchorne.com. And that's pretty much all I have, Hunter.
My guy. So many interesting stats. I want to give a shout out to blackdemographics.com. I got this when when you really suggested me to get into Kevin Samuels, and he started spitting certain things out from a statistical standpoint. I was like, man, where I'm getting this information from? I got to make sure that what he's saying is valid. So I went to the source where he got. So I've been looking at blackdemographics.com at least for about a year and a half now, about a year. And there's some interesting stuff on here, but so it's so many places we could start, right? One I'll start with, because it's kind of right here as I'm scrolling, on the black men page, black male statistics. This is based on the 2021 United States Census too. So always keep that in mind, people. You know, statistics, you got to give some time for it to update. You know what I'm saying? Life has to happen, right? But let's look at occupation type for black men age 16 and older. I'm seeing something that's interesting here, especially in regards to the narrative of the high earners, the money making guys, right? It says black men that are in white collar professions is 41%. Black men in blue collar professions is 39%. And black men in service occupations is 21%. So that's interesting when you look at women wanting a high earning man or a high earning black man. It looked like I ain't gonna say it looked like, it is what it is. It's basically split between white collar and blue collar. So let's discuss the perception of how black men get money in the first damn place.
Exactly. We definitely need perspective. One thing I love about the Godfather, Kevin Samuels, rest in peace, is he always emphasized and brought to the awareness of the black woman the pool of men who make that six figures. These high earning men, that whether the woman lived in the projects or whether she was the CEO, they all called into his show to get the high value man. Right. And he would always, emphasize that you have maybe 10 to no more than 15% of black men making that kind of money, six figures. But he would level the playing field because he wanted to see us together. He would say, have you considered the trade worker? Have you considered the bus driver? Have you considered the different type of man that's involved in masonry and who's built the foundation of this world? Have you considered, meaning that you need to find a suitable mate and you need to be honest with yourself about the probabilities and what's at your disposal in terms of being a black woman.
Absolutely. Go ahead, my bad.
Yeah, and that's essentially it, is that, we're better on both sides when we have a awareness of what our actual dating pool is, man.
Right. And it's interesting where you look at some of the narratives. Again, got to address the false narratives, because there's definitely a misconception with black men making money in the blue collar field. Shout out to Fog Hill Inc., grinding good. The fastest growing facilities maintenance firm in the DC area. Carpentry. Electrical work, plumbing, paint and drywall, as long as there are buildings that are up, they're going to need service, and that's residential and commercial, because you have all the same needs in a home as well, whether that's in a apartment, a townhouse, or a single family home. But there's a perception where the guys that get their hands dirty don't get no money.
There it is. You said it.
And that's crazy. Mm-hmm. And I think, so I definitely want to say this to black men. Don't be fooled on the ways you can get money. Lock in and study and focus on the ways you can get money, because you're not limited. If I'm going to get into the college statistics, and this might I think this is a good point to tie this in too, because you don't necessarily have to, have a bachelor's, master's, PhD, etc. And for several reasons, we our generation, for sure, millennials, have seen how that can backfire on people. We know plenty of people that have over specialized degrees and don't have jobs in that field.
Exactly.
But you got the college debt to go along with getting that degree.
Yeah,
the interest is not a game in America. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So you might want to go get a trade when you're in high school. Mm-hmm. And, or go to a trade school. I got a cousin right now doing HVAC work. Little cousin, he just had a birthday. He's maybe mid to late 20s. Mm-hmm. Got to be close to the 60. He probably about 80 grand, 80 to 100 grand.
Yeah.
Traveling, getting money.
Yeah.
Girlfriend, every time I see his girlfriend, I'm not sure which one. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? Every time I see her, she's smiling.
Yeah.
Because he had a focus. Young, all right, I'm not going to college. Cool, get a trade. You can start working in a trade. You go through your apprenticeship and that process to become a master.
Yeah.
You can't get less than a certain dollar amount. So it's very, very interesting when you look at white collar and blue collar. Those statistics are very even, 41% to 39%. It's not more black men in either. It's kind of even.
It is. And the good part about that is that if the woman isn't caught up on the sexy optics of how the man makes his money, she can find a suitable mate. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of these trade guys. I've seen it in my family. They'll start their own companies, and after they pay everyone out and pay everyone's insurance and medical benefits, they still clearing $250 a year, mm-hmm. which is way more than the guy that sits there, in the white collar capacity, mm-hmm. who his earning potential might be like, 150 at best. Mm-hmm. So we can't necessarily get caught up in the sexy optics of how the man is making the money and the dinner party you can bring him to and the different places that you can brag about him. And, you're thinking about status, but let's talk about real connections and longevity. Right. And the man that has the initiative and the drive to get out there and make the money, regardless of how he makes it. Mm-hmm.
I guess especially when it's legal. I mean, we ain't talking about nobody flipping bricks or pounds.
Exactly.
Or illegal bricks, I should say. Like a bricklayer is an actual trade.
Yeah.
So like a house has to be built.
Pablo.
You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting. I'm trying to get to the college statistics because this ties into the white and blue collar perception. Mm-hmm. Because the negative perception that one is better than the other, we just have to do away with it. But I'm looking on here, and educational attainment by black men age 25 and older, it has this one is, I'm gonna use all men and black men. It has all men at 61%, has black men at 52% as far as attending college. Now, attending doesn't mean you necessarily got your degree.
Yeah.
And we understand that, when you go to college, you're figuring yourself out. So you might realize that's not the way for you. I know when I first went to school, I wanted to be a sports trainer. Mm-hmm. And once I saw that biology and physiology, and I was like, ease up off of that. Let me just go into business management. But I also understood too, I wanted something that was a transferable skill, mm-hmm. where you always need people to manage a business. People will always need management. So, I went from retail to facilities maintenance field, mm-hmm. and beyond now. So people will still need management. Now, I'm not going back to retail because that's a dying field, mm-hmm. but you can't get an over specialized degree and navigate opportunities like that. But this is interesting though. I'm going to add something. Less than high school diploma is 15% of black men.
Okay.
Right? Bachelor's degree or higher is 19%.
Okay.
So it's really looking like the rest of the guys are in the middle.
Yeah,
somewhere.
And the one thing about that is that 60% of black men are in the middle class.
That speaks towards that.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to introduce it. 60% of black men are in the middle class, so there are an overabundance of suitable mates for black women to choose from. And you know, if there's an inability to pair yourself with one of these men, then the conversation has to begin to come back to yourself. But in terms of the narratives, which is the focus of the conversation, the statistics don't lie. So if you have 55% of black men are single and childless, and 60% of black men are in the middle class, that means more of us than not are suitable mates that you can build a healthy life with and actually be cared for and sustained and have security when you deal with these men. So with that being said, it's not the reality of the black man and how he's perceived, it's the sentiment towards the black man that is keeping a lot of black women from pairing themselves with suitable mates. Because the only thing that can keep you from examining this pool of successful childless black men to choose from is that somehow, some way you've concluded that you're on a higher plane and you're better than him. And that is the only thing, that's the catalyst for this separation that we have between us, because regardless of the narrative, like you spoke to, regardless of the narrative, more of us are childless and successful. That means suitable mates that you can start a family with. And if you're not willing to admit that we exist, if you're not willing to pair yourself with these type of men who are checking for you, then the conversation has to come back to yourself. And you have to really ask yourself, what is my sentiment towards black men?
And that's a hell of a point right there. But I'm not going to go into the woman's direction. I want to stay on the man's direction. What does that consistency of black men in the middle class, what do they need to do to find a wife?
Uh-oh. About to get wild with it.
I'm just like, I mean, how do we vet better? What are some of the things that we need to do? Because clearly we're doing good for ourselves, you know what I'm saying, at the very least, right?
Yeah.
More often than not. So with that being said, okay, how are we going about choosing the right woman to be with? How are we choosing the right woman? Because another thing I want to touch on is marrying before Carrie, but I think we'll flow into that. I'll let you respond.
Yeah. With that being said, you know, my YouTube channel is it's for men, but my pervading theme that has become an identity of the page is the sexually attractive man.
Okay.
And I think that, you know, that cannot be lost in the man ascending, making higher salaries, having a vision, everything you're talking about. That woman is still going to choose you with her eyes. And that's how you have men who don't have all of the bells and whistles and accolades of certain men, but they're finding their way to the bedroom or into relationships with these women that these particular men that we're talking about want. Like, sex appeal is something that you cannot deny. And so in addition to elevating yourself as a man, you want to make sure that you're optimizing yourself as a man. You know, you want to make sure that you're in the best possible shape that you can get in. You want to make sure that you take inventory of every gift, talent, and ability that God gave you and dealt you, and understand that these are your best attributes to optimize. And then when you're bringing the best version of yourself to the world, and not just beautiful women are a byproduct of you bringing the best version of yourself to the world, meaning that they're going to desire you, they're going to lust you, and they're going to want you for the right reasons, because there's a recognition of the magnitude of the man that's in front of them. And that's the problem, is that we can elevate ourselves, we can become successful, but we don't develop ourselves into a magnitude of a man that is to be revered and respected and desired. And so that's where the disconnect is from men in this position that we're talking about in terms of getting the kind of woman that he wants.
Got you. Okay. Because it's interesting, right? I'm looking at educational attainment stats, right? And because I'm definitely going to tie this into like that consistent populace of black men in the middle class, where, all right, less than high school diploma says for black men 13%, all men 11%. So that's not, abnormally off. You know what I'm saying? There's a certain group of men in America that don't have a high school diploma.
Yeah.
And very easily they can end up in the blue collar field. Very easily. High school graduate equivalency. Black men 35%, all men 28%. So it shows that more of us are graduating from high school compared to other men. Right? So we just talking about educational attainment here, right? Associate's degree. I have an associate's degree, right? That's even. Black men 8%, all men 8%, right? Bachelor's degree, and going up is where you start to see it tick for other men compared to black men. Black men are at 14% for bachelor's degree, all men 21%. Graduate, which is master's, or professional, which is graduate degree, which is master's, is 8% black men, 13% all men. Bachelor's degree and higher, which I'm going to equate that to being maybe a bachelor's and a master's or something like that. Black men at 22%, all men 34%. Attended college. Again, you can attend college but not get a degree. That's 52% black men, 61% all men. Here's the thing. From what we're just gathering right now in conversation, ladies, you can't assess a man solely on his qualities. Black men, you can't allow yourself to only be judged solely on your education. There has to be more there. Your income earning isn't necessarily limited because of your education. Sometimes it could be capped because of your education, depending on what field you're in. This is why the narrative of black women having more degrees and higher level degrees than black men, as you see, it doesn't equate to the success of the black relationship. It's irrelevant.
It is.
It never was a thing for us to assess each other based on your education solely or primarily or higher than other things. And that's, again, we attacking black narratives tonight. So
yes.
The education piece, I've said this before, you have to assess somebody for who they are, not what they have, in a sense. Your education can't measure your moral compass, your integrity,
exactly,
your character, you know what I'm saying, your honor, things of that nature. So, all right, if a man has a high school diploma only, cool. Or maybe he might not have high school equivalency. Can you assess his aptitude?
There you have it.
Can you assess his decision making? Can you assess things of this nature? Do you have the abilities as a woman to do that? But we're not talking about that. As a man, do you have the ability to understand your value?
There you have it.
Despite your educational attainment.
Yes. And that's where the food chain comes into place. You have to start looking at, the woman you desire and begin to allow your value to come into frame and into focus. We're talking about black people tonight. And 72% of black women will never be married in their life.
That's crazy.
That's an epidemic. That's 3 out of 4. Of those, say 28% or 25, 1 in 4 that get married, roughly 50% of them will not make it past 5 years in marriage.
Right.
So we're talking about not just an epidemic in marriage, in non-marriage, also an epidemic in staying married, which drops, a black woman's percentage of being married and making it past 5 years to roughly 12 or 13%. That's an epidemic right there.
Yeah, that's a problem. And that's why we're having some of these conversations.
And so the solution for the black man to understand his value is to understand the reality of the woman who is his mate. And then his value will begin to come into focus at that point. And then you can understand that that woman is no more valuable than you. And a lot of times it's not what you accomplish and what you attain. It's the awareness of yourself that matches the things that you accomplish and you attain. And the awareness of yourself is going to give you a certain level of confidence, and it's going to give you a barometer that you're not going to view any woman above you, because you understand that you are an offering and you are a gift. So a man can accomplish everything. He can get all of the pedigrees, the paperwork, the degrees and things like that. But if his awareness of himself is not rooted in himself and not in the material world, then he's going to be food out here.
Yeah.
The woman can treat him any kind of way. How many professional athletes that do you see making terrible decisions?
Get preyed upon.
But they have millions of dollars.
Right.
Your aptitude for long-term success with a woman and choosing the right woman has nothing to do with how much money you make.
Absolutely.
It has everything to do with you having an understanding of the magnitude of man that you are, and that's when you can assess your value. If you don't understand the magnitude of what you're bringing to the world and to the marketplace and to women, then your entire world will be out of balance, even though your wallet is inflated. So it all begins and ends with you. Self-perception, self-love, self-awareness. These are the things that will allow you to choose the right woman. These will be the things that allow you to be recognizable to the woman. When she looks at you, she's attracted to you. She finds out you have a backdrop of success, but then she feels your energy of how much you love yourself and how much you value yourself. Then she in turn has to make a decision and assess your value correctly or lose out on a suitable mate. So you want to bring yourself to the marketplace as an optimal man with an understanding of your place in the food chain. And once you do that, the only way to have a balanced life is to deal with women who value you the same way you value yourself.
You just said it, because if you have a healthy self-esteem, self-worth, then you're not going to tolerate certain things.
It is.
You're not going to go for certain things. And how we conduct ourselves, I say the vetting process now, dating is trash. Like, because what people go for on the dating scene might not necessarily be a part of a vetting process for a husband or wife. You might, you can date somebody like, you know what? She fat. She might be cute. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you get a bad one, you get a bad one, right? But then are you assessing a woman based on her emotional intelligence, her moral compass? You know what I'm saying? Her self-worth. But you have to have that to assess it in a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, I always talk about my new 3 dating metrics it's emotional intelligence, mental health, and moral compass. It's not about the look. I've learned over the years, I've dealt with a wide range of spectrum of women in my life. And ironically, some of the more badder ones are more challenging to deal with, where you can have a great experience. You talk about this all often, about the experience you create for somebody, man or woman. You create the proper experience for somebody, and generally you do it naturally. It's not something you're focused on doing. You know what I'm saying? You're just being yourself. You'll have a very, I'm not going to say easy, but a seamless process of connecting. But when you're into what someone has more than who someone is, you're going to run into pitfalls. So now let's go here in the dating landscape and the relationship landscape, where we have hookup culture, where women are more sexually liberal. The modern woman is more, she'll have sex with you. She'll definitely have sex with you. She'll have sex with you probably before she knows you. One saying that I've really learned over the past couple years, I'm not going to say I learned it over the past couple years, I say I understand it more, is the saying, to know me is to love me. A lot of people say they love you, but that's not based on them understanding you. It's based on how they feel about you, not how you like to receive love, especially as a man. You have to teach a woman how to love you. How you love me is not based on solely how you feel about me. I'll give an example. I love sports. Skins play at 1 o'clock on Sundays. And we talking about nothing outside of that at 12:27.
Yeah, man.
I'm about to lock into the game. Yeah. What are you doing? No different than if you watch a show on a certain day. You know, it's certain simple things where it's a understanding and consider. If you understand some, matter of fact, you should be bringing some food or preparing a meal, or you know what I'm saying. Yeah. You should be in here with a Skins jersey on. You know what I'm saying, about to watch the game with me. If not, don't take me away from it.
Exactly.
But again, the level of understanding has to be there internally. From an intrinsic, you have to have your intrinsic value has to be there, because if not, you're gonna go outside. Especially in the DMV, you're going to hit one of these popping spots. You're going to come across something that catch your eye, and she might smoke you because you so focused on, and I'm going back to hookup culture, you're so focused on having sex, and you might not be sexually disciplined, that you end up in a situation where you end up in a situationship, not a relationship, a situationship. We've all been there before. Yeah. And now it's like, well, damn, is she the one? And is she a wife? Is she the one I'm supposed to marry? But now you might have a little bit of emotional attachment because you're having sex with her. Mm-hmm. Might be some time invested. But if your process isn't right. So I don't want to digress too much. Let's discuss hookup culture.
Okay.
And how that impacts the populace of black men that are looking for a wife.
Oh, man. Believe it or not, first of all, man, you said a lot, man. I want to address and chime in on, but the way that it addresses black men, in my opinion, is in a positive way. If the man knows himself,
okay.
If you're going to vet a woman to be your girlfriend, your woman, or your wife, you want to be the sexiest man that she's ever laid eyes on. Okay. Because if you become the optimal man and you become the sexually attractive man, you understand that women will offer themselves to you on a regular basis.
This is true.
And you are her first choice. So that ties into positively vetting a woman to be your wife, because you want to be your wife's first choice. That's an aspect of it, not the total aspect of it.
Gotcha.
You know, from an attraction standpoint. Because if you're not your wife's first choice, then the things that she would do with her first choice, she's going to do with another man.
Y'all.
If you're not your wife's first choice, the things that she would do with her first choice, she's going to do them with another man. And so you want to develop yourself into a man enough that you have enough immediate sexual encounters with women where it's their idea, because they can't contain their lust for you. That's when you know what it looks like to be desired. And then you can identify the woman who desires you, who you desire her the same way, and then you all can start working backwards in terms of assessing each other's qualities and compatibility. Everyone's optimal experience, even before you get to marriage and dating and things like that, there's no better experience. I'm going to make a video on this later tonight. There's no better experience to have a woman who's extremely sexually attracted to you and you're extremely sexually attracted to her. And then from there, the experience grows when you all realize that there is a level of compatibility there as well. You know, because, you know, that's a very enjoyable experience. She's not settling in any way. You're not settling in any way. Okay, you all can have some compatibility. What's the next natural course of action that's going to take place? Your hearts are going to connect, because you have someone in your space who is a representation of your first choice, and neither one of you all had to compromise. That's how people fall in love right there. And then from there, you all can view each other over time, and there's not a whole lot of conflict between you all. The disagreements that you all have, since you all desire each other and you all each other's first choice, you all are solution oriented, meaning that you work through things and you emerge from those things you have to work through as becoming closer. So then your hearts connect. And then that's the woman that you want to marry right there, because she will do the things with you and she doesn't feel the need to do those things with another man, because you're her first choice, and that she can go out and she can survey different men and she cannot find anything better than what she has at home, because she can find men as attractive as you, but not with the connection that she has with you.
Connection is key.
And so that's where I'm coming from. You always want to have an eye from the very beginning and use this as the catalyst to whether you want to deal with the woman or not, of if you are her first choice. But you have to develop yourself into a man who can be viewed as a woman's first choice. Develop yourself into a man that a multitude of women view you based on your sexual desirability and the backdrop of success that you have, meaning that you've been able to be successful because you consistently brought a version of yourself to life that has gotten a consistent, elevated trajectory of results. Now she's like, okay, he's mastered himself. He's been able to effectively lead himself. His appearance is based on how he sees himself. We didn't see everything's happening from the inside out. And now I can trust him. I'm sexually attracted to him. And I can trust him that I can have an elevated life with him, and he's going to make my life better. That's the woman you choose to make your wife.
That's good. That's good right there. I want to throw a curveball your way in the modern era, because this isn't more on men or women, especially not black men and women. But we're in a more sexually liberal day and age, you know what I'm saying? So with hookup culture being a thing, with people more inclined on the dating scene, again, it's not a vetting scene, it's a dating scene. With people having casual sex more, how does that complicate the equation? How does that throw off how certain variables in the equation lead to a certain end result, where it seems to be an overemphasis in a sense on getting your sexual needs satisfied. See, being sexually desirable doesn't mean you're always having sex, from my perspective and perception. And when you come to and look at things from a discipline standpoint, it definitely factors in from a vetting standpoint, because sex can throw off everything. I literally, it's a good quick story time. I'm not gonna say when, but in my many years on this planet, friend, I had a woman I met for the first time on a Friday. It had to be like a holiday weekend. Definitely was, because it was warm outside. We got in the pool. I met her on a Friday. We was in a relationship by Monday. Now, for me, I've always done things outside of the box, right? I know you can't. There's only a certain level of getting to know somebody past commitment or before commitment. It just is what it is. You can play whatever games you want. You can say whatever you want. Like I said, if you want to get to know somebody, have a kid with them, marry them, live with them, or do business with them. And you'll see them in situations that they can't control. You'll see yourself in situations that you can't control, and your true colors will come out. So I know in that particular situation, we were definitely sexually undisciplined, because on that Friday, I was cranking. You best believe it. Went to the pool. I saw Shawty get out the water. We took had some nice little thermoses like this with the sauce in it. She got out the pool. Oh my God, the way the water was dripping off her buttocks. I'm working on my language. I'm gonna say buttocks. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going for the kill. As soon as we go back upstairs, and I gotta rinse off, get in the shower, I'm gonna be in that jump with you.
Yeah.
I need to get in the shower too. But anyway, I say all that to say, I know I was sexually undisciplined in that situation. And I think the good part is sometimes when you commit, you're going to figure things out quicker. So we went through a certain process to realize that we wouldn't work out together. Right. But there has to be some type of balance in a sexually liberal day and age, and a hookup culture day and age, where has to be some discipline there to really get to know somebody prior to, or to a certain extent, or being able to have the capacity to have sex, but not overinflate the value of it.
I'm with you on that.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. And that's why it goes back to say knowing yourself. Hookup culture doesn't hurt you if you know yourself. Meaning that you can identify with what you're compatible with, and sex is not a blinder. It's an enjoyable experience that our great grandmothers and grandfathers experienced, but they veiled it better. This is not hookup culture. This is an extension of what's been happening since the beginning of time. So when you accept that, you can put sex in its proper perspective as two people who consensually and mutually desire one another, doing what naturally comes to them so that the earth can stay populated. It's an imperative that God gave you both. And there's nothing wrong with exploring that. Now, if you overinflate the value of it, then it can start to blind you. But that's what, I mean, believe it or not, that's why it's beneficial to become a sexually attractive man, because many women you meet want to offer themselves to you and you have sex with them quickly. So you don't have an overinflated sense and value of sex. You understand it as a mutual exchange between people who sexually desire one another. So then the emphasis is placed on the qualities that this person has. And the qualities that are going to be amplified in the woman that you're vetting are going to be the qualities that you have improved within yourself and that you desire. So the having sex quickly is just something naturally that comes to two people who are sexually attracted to each other. But the real discipline has to be in elevating yourself and knowing yourself enough to be able to separate the sex from the importance of the qualities that are going to determine your quality of life based on who you choose.
I agree. Because that's kind of, maybe I have to send that to moms or some of my aunties and stuff like that. Like, well, why you ain't like that? I was like, I mean, why you ain't with that girl or this girl? I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not going to tell y'all that the sex was great, and I don't look at her or view her as a wife. You know what I'm saying? Well, we might not be compatible, but I can compartmentalize. You know what I'm saying? There's been a couple that got me good. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's necessary. I think there has to be a balance with discipline where you understand, especially as you're growing and evolving. If you're privileged to have life and have days, weeks, months alive and years alive, you need to be learning and growing. So especially as we're talking about men right now. Ladies, this apply to y'all too, but we're not going to digress into that. You know what I'm saying? We want to focus on the men right in this conversation. Y'all got to be, if you're going to be having sex or having certain interactions with women, you have to be able to compartmentalize it. But like for me, I don't care how good you are in the bedroom, where that's at in the kitchen.
Yeah.
For me, I'm not with, I've had women that got a bunch of money, especially in the DMV. You make ball 50, 200, 250K. You might be a freak. You know what I'm saying? We might hang off the chandeliers. But when it comes time to get in that kitchen, I was just talking to pops and moms over the weekend. These women can't make gravy. The corn pudding that was at Thanksgiving the other day, 70-year-old auntie made that. Where your kitchen game at?
Yeah, and that's based on what you value.
That's what I value, because in my mind, I don't have children yet, but I assess, well, if you can feed me, you can feed my children. It's real simple logic. So it's not just what you feed me. Well, excuse me, it's not just feeding me, it's what you feed me. Are you making things that are nutritional? Are you evolving? Are you studying? Like Kevin Samuels used to say all the time, like, do you have a cookbook? He would blow their mind. You see their heads blow up when you ask them to have a cookbook. You ask a woman if she have a cookbook these days, she gonna look at you like, a cookbook? I could Google something. I could go to YouTube. But I know some women that they'll go to YouTube to get a recipe, but they'll crack open this little book and they'll put their spin on it, and that's their go-to. So when it's time to prepare this meal, they have a foundation for how they're going to prepare it. They can remix it. They can do different things, but do you have a cookbook? It's kind of like a woman asking a man. I've never had a woman in my life ask me to defend her. It's something that's innate that you, like I said, it's an energy. Like, you know what? I could tell he might not win every fight or whatever, but you ain't going to try him without having to deal with the consequences of it.
Yeah. She gonna feel safe with you.
That she feels safe with me. When we talk about safe spaces, it varies for men and women. A safe space for a woman, you should naturally feel protected by a man. The concept of a woman, can you fight? Like, if we go out here tonight and I got this short skirt on, and niggas, whoop, 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 wow, wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't happen when you're dealing with a man that has a certain level of self-worth. Because first of all, he ain't gonna put himself in a certain situation where you dress a certain way to put him in a situation anyway.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he doesn't have to oversell that.
It's an energy.
It's who he is. Just like women can peep if you a sucker. So fellas, we have to address the way you present yourself to women. You're not entitled to a woman. You're not entitled to a wife. You're not entitled to a family. It's something you have to work on and earn. Period. In all of these aspects. If you feel sexually inadequate, why are you out here in hookup culture, as we like to call it?
Yeah.
We've been seeing this for the past 15 years. Like, if you shrimping, stop sending unsolicited D pics, man. That's only for the brothers that are black, man. You can't lead with that. That's like leading with a little bit of money in your wallet.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's the real right there. And I see things through the lens of solutions. And we're talking to black men tonight, and dating, vetting, everything that's relevant to us, doing things progressively and the right way. But I believe I have an answer.
Let's go.
And this is a video I made on my channel maybe a week or so ago. It was called "Why You Don't Know Where She Fits Within Your Life." You don't know where a woman fits within your life because you haven't made a declaration to the type of man that you're going to be.
Hold on, say that again. You
don't know where a woman fits in your life because you haven't made a declaration as to the type of man that you're going to be.
Is that the type of man you're going to be, or the man that you are?
That's what I'm saying.
I got you.
When you make the declaration to the man that you're going to be, that's the man that you become. And that's something I had to do after I mishandled a woman that I was with for 3 years. Purest woman that ever entered my life, will ever enter my life probably. Did everything right. Everything right. I won't go into too much detail, man, but I was her first everything. I was everything she wanted. Never gave any issues, nothing. And I mishandled her. So when that was over, I made the decision to stare at myself. And it's like I had this relationship review, man. You know how people go to heaven and they say they have a life review when they come back?
Get at them gates.
Yeah, I had a relationship review, and I saw everywhere that I let her down that was not in accordance with how she was treating me. Everything that I did to mishandle her.
Self-assessment.
And I used that to make a declaration and a decision as to the type of man that I was going to be moving forward. And I never gave a woman an inferior experience, even on a casual level, anything like that. I told myself I'm going to always consider that there's someone else across from me. When you examine yourself and you make a declaration to the kind of man that you're going to be, your precepts will come into focus like the 10 commandments that Moses wrote on the stones, man. You'll have principles and precepts and things that you're going to abide by and that women have to abide by. This is called an identity. So we can do all the improvement we want to do. We can be careful about how we swerving and sticking and moving and how much sex has relevance. All of that means nothing until we've established an identity. And so when you have an identity, then everything in your life will come into its proper place, into its proper focus, and you will always have balance. Meaning that you will make the best choices that are in accordance with the man that you've become. So we definitely cannot blame women, because if the wrong woman makes her way and stays in your space, it's a reflection of you are incomplete.
100%.
You have not made a declaration to the type of man that you're going to be. And that is the answer right there. We have to make a declaration as to the kind of man that we're going to be. That way we can identify the experience that we're going to give to women, and we can identify the experience that we want to come back to us.
I agree with that 1,000%.
And I don't have nothing else to say on that, man. Like, that's as simple as it can be. I'm gonna tell you something wild real quick, right?
All right, let's go.
I've seen you say the quote, where there's no where there's no vision, the people perish. Where there's vision, the people flourish. Right.
The man with vision will flourish. The man without vision will perish.
Okay. Would you believe me if I told you I created that quote?
No,
I did.
because I got it from the Bible.
No, you got it from the Bible, right? But you didn't get the transverse where there's vision.
Okay, say what you just said again. Okay, you got me. Okay, say what you just said again.
Where there is vision, the people perish. Where there is vision, the people flourish.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm not going to bring no heat to my man Willie Jolly. I was 26 years old, out in Bowie at a studio. He was our guest to be on our show. It was How to Survive in the Bad Economy.
Okay.
He was in the room just like this while we were shooting the show before it was his guest spot to come on. In my notes, because we all had our monologue before we brought on the guest.
Okay.
In my meditation, I got the quote, where there is no vision, the people perish. Where there is vision, the people flourish. The part that's not in the Bible.
Gotcha.
Willie Jolly started off. He tested the waters to see if I would check him and come for him.
Right.
He said, I subscribe to where there is no vision, the people perish. But where there is vision, the people flourish. And he tried to see if I would come and take ownership of the quote. And I didn't. I understand that's just a part of the game.
Right.
If you're not just a motivational speaker and you're a prophet, that means you're ahead of everybody anyway. He's twice my age, but I'm in the spirit. I'm like, you can have that. And so it's evolved into, you was my man spitting this, and other people spitting it and have no idea where it came from.
I got you. I'm following.
And so it wasn't a braggadocious recollection. It's just more or less to say, where there is vision, the people flourish. Where there is an identity, the people flourish.
This is very true.
You're not going to choose the right woman until you have an identity. You're not going to choose the right woman until you have a full understanding and acceptance of yourself.
I think this is where delusion and entitlement applies to men, because this isn't previous generations or day and ages. We're dealing with a different type of woman. We're in a different landscape. Never mind the sex piece, just when you look at, certain statistics, women, feminism has changed things in America. And rightfully so, in a certain extent, let me say something real quick. Black men aren't a part of the patriarchy. We didn't create these social constructs in America that have oppressed women. That's another false narrative we have to destroy right now. That was created by men of European descent, not men of African descent, period. And we can go back and forth on that with me and you not, but I'm going to clip this up. And I'm going to jump this one out there. We are not a part of the patriarchy just because we're men. Stop that. It's not true. We would not create a society that would have oppressed black men, women, and children the way that it has if we are part of the patriarchy. Cut it out. Has to stop. So with that being said, might have lost my train of thought a little bit. I had to get that one off.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's cool.
Yeah, so I do want to transition to something. I want to go back to some statistics, right? Earnings and employment. Let's transition a little bit, right? So this one is going to be interesting, I think, from my perspective, right? Earnings and employment. And this is updated as of 2021. Blackdemographics.com. Shout out to y'all. We got to figure out who's running that site. So we can kind of, build with them a little bit better. Ages 16 to 64. And I'm glad they're adding in the teenage years, because I know I started working, especially at millennials, we had to start getting jobs when we were younger. Our parents wouldn't just let us play video games and buy us whatever we wanted. You know what I'm saying? The percent who are in the labor force, black men, 69%, all men, 79%. So we 10% behind right there. That's somewhat, I think 10% is something to pay attention to. Percent of labor force who are employed. I guess you can have a skill set and not have a job, maybe. Excuse me. Black men, 87%, all men, 92%. That's close to being even. Ages 16 to 64, the number of men below poverty level. Black men, 20%, all men, 12%. We're kind of getting a little higher right there, right? And then they have some ages 16 and up statistics where worked full-time year-round, ages 16 and up. Black men, 37%. Other men, 47%. Now, of course, other men are all groups compiled together. Mm-hmm. So we have to pay attention to that. It's not black men against Irish men or Irish Americans or Japanese Americans or Nigerian Americans. They're grouping all the other men together, right? So keep that in mind. Ages 16 and up, full-time median earnings for 2021 for black men is $46,065. All other men is $60,000, almost 60,000 and a half. That's significant. That's almost a $15,000 difference, right? Earnings part-time or other, kind of even there. 22% black men, 23% all men. No earnings all year. Black men, 41%, all other men, 30%. We got to do better. We have to do better there. That's too many men not earning anything to even be an option for black women. Never mind other women. But for black women, we have to present them with a better option than a man.
That's deep right there, man.
Period. How the hell you go a whole... I've had a rough year. I just got laid off in 2019, and I've been going in a different trajectory from an entrepreneurial standpoint since then. I didn't earn... you can get 20,000. I can go work fast food, get 20,000. Where's your pride at? How do you feel comfortable not earning anything at all? How do you survive? Much less get sex or a date or interaction with a woman. That's bad. $1, we talking about earnings now, $1 to $10,000. Even 3%, 3% black men, 2% all other men. $10,000 to $20,000 or $19.99. Black men 12%, other men 9%. So we still we got some loafers.
Yeah,
we clearly got some loafers, right? And maybe tonight is not going to be a good time, I don't think. But we can deeper and we'll have another conversation about men. We deeper analyze where some of these numbers are coming from, because there's like a newer coddled generation. There's certain aspects of somebody got to be taking care of you if you're not a man and you ain't earning at all consistently. So that is what it is. But it's very circumstantial and situational as well. You know what I'm saying? $20,000 to $29,999. Black men 20%, other men 14%. $30,000 to $49,999. Black men 32%, other men 27%. $50,000 to $74,999 or $75,000 is 20% to 22%. That's that majority you see of us. Well, when you factor some of these numbers in, yeah, there are a lot of dudes making $50,000 to $75,000. Middle class is what it is. $75,000 or more. Black men 13%, other men 26%. We're getting doubled up as we go up the scale. I'm gonna get your feedback on this shortly. 50. So I gave you 50,000 to 75,000, but they have 50,000 or more. Black men 33%, other men 48%. So I have a twofold. As I'm reading this to you, I'm processing it. I have a twofold direction I want to go in, right? And One, I ain't gonna say it's gonna be one. I just want to highlight something for women. The black men that we talked about, that you talking about make money, they're in limited quantity.
Exactly.
Statistically, it is what it is. But we're not talking about women. We're talking about men. Why are we comfortable making less money? It looks like statistically, as we go up the scale from 50 to 75, 75 or more, or 50,000 and more, I mean, the numbers are there's a significant difference when you get to 75% of us, excuse me, when 13% of us make $75,000 or more, again, 13% less than other men. And then 50,000 or more, $50,000 is not a lot of money in 2024 going into the future. And keep in mind, these statistics are based on 2021. So these are about to go on a 4-year, almost 5-year anniversary with these statistics. 50,000 or more. How are we getting 15% of other men making more money than us like that? That's bad to me.
Yeah, you.
That's bad.
As a man, you can never blame any other construct outside of yourself. You can't blame anything. Now, one thing I did put in my book, How to Be Appealing to Successful Black Men for Black Women, I emphasize how the white supremacist power structure makes sure that the black woman elevates higher and faster in the corporate structure.
Within the corporate structure,
so that she cannot look to the black man as a suitable mate. Even if he has ambition, he's trying to work his way up. They'll make sure that she rises above. And then consequently, that black man strategically catches his stride a little later at 30. And then she's 30 now. She's overlooked him when he was on his way up. And
see where the divide comes in.
That's where it happened. And then, you know, she dealt with the dope boys. She dealt with the entrepreneurs, the athletes, especially in this area. I can't tell you how many women bragged to me about dealing with the Wizards and stuff back when I was really in my hay in DC and stuff like that. And I'd be like, but you in this bed with me. Like, why you telling me about that?
Right.
And then a lot of times I play ball with those guys.
Right. We know them.
I'm like, oh yeah, Blacks. Yeah, I know that. I know that dude. Like, he a good dude. Like, he keep bringing his name up. Why don't you just go ahead, like, pull with him? Right. No, I'm here with you.
Right.
And I wrote about that story. I ain't never say his name in the book, but I wrote about that in How to Get Beautiful Women and Everything Else You Want from Life.
Okay.
But this is the bottom line. This is what happens. The black man, by the age of 30, to really bring all of this into focus, the black man by the age of 30, even if he's not where he wants to be, he should have a consistent trail of results that's based on his level of vision and ambition for his own life. Meaning that, okay, the structure made sure you as a black woman had more than him, but you have to understand the pool of men you have to choose from and understand your suitable mates. So this is the focus on us as black men and our value. From there, understand what happens when you turn 30 as a black man. Some sort of way is magical, whether you're a corporate entrepreneur, you will catch your stride if you're a man of vision. And then those same women that overlooked you for the mirages will be the ones coming back to you. That's how it always happens. But you're 30, still looking young, still young.
Black don't crack.
You making some money, you're going to go get you a 23-year-old girl. That's just how the game is played. So really understand, this is a message. Hunter did a good job of telling men to elevate. I want to finish the job by saying, if you're the elevated man, this is how you roll through society. Understand you're going to catch your stride at a certain point. And that, honestly, you know, there's no power structure that can define you, that can inhibit you if you're really a man of vision and purpose. Meaning that if it's in you and the corporate plantation is not giving it to you, if you're truly a man of vision and purpose, you're going to go out and create it on your own.
Absolutely.
Sovereignty means that you trust God above the corporate structure.
Absolutely. I agree.
So sovereignty means that you've been dealt gifts, talents, abilities in a unique way and perspective that you see the world. That's your hand. That's outside of any structure that's in place to diminish you. And if you embrace your hand, now you're subjecting yourself to the sovereign nature of God that owns everything.
Yeah.
And if you're obedient to what he gave you to deposit to this world, your gifts, your talents, and your abilities, now you're operating completely outside of this metric and matrix. So if black men, if you really want an answer, we've both given you some great information, but if you really want an answer, play your hand. Gifts, talents, abilities, in a unique way and perspective that you see the world. White man didn't deliver that to you. Black man didn't deliver that to you. God hand delivered that to you. And if you play that, you're subjecting yourself to God's rules. What better rules to subject yourself to if the Creator has sovereignty? He owns it all. Meaning that if you're obedient, he'll give you your portion. Because you're accomplishing a mission for him. Not for the company. Not
First things first.
Not for the mission statement. But for the Creator that created you to do a particular thing. So tune into those whispers from the universe. Tune into those gifts and talents and those voices of people telling you that you're good at certain things and you're making impact. God is wherever your impact is.
There we go.
If the world is not giving you the return on how you're showing up to the world, it's time for you to go to a higher floor in the building. It's time for you to seek God.
Real simple.
And what he gave you to deliver to this world, because that's where every breakthrough is that can occur in your life. You can't be stopped because there's no limits on the Creator that gave you the tools to make an impact on this world. So there's no man that should not have sovereignty over his life. If you go to your source, you can identify your source within yourself in terms of what you've been gifted to do.
Right.
There's no ceilings on your life.
Regardless of your, religious preference or, understanding or spiritual understanding. You're right.
There's no limits, man. So which means there's no excuses. The cornerstone of masculinity is taking personal responsibility for every outcome that you have in life.
Accountability.
You can't blame and take accountability.
You can't.
And then now we're talking relationships. Now you're the safe space for the woman because you're not taking blame. You're only taking action.
Right.
If you take a step back, she can sit back and observe you and see you recreated 2 times better than what you lost.
She'll see you struggle and grind.
Because the essence never was lost, even though you took a loss. A supremacist structure can try to cripple you, can throw roadblocks in your way, but they can never take away the essence of what allowed you to create the thing that they're trying to take away from you in the first place, man.
Yeah.
So there's no excuses. Go to your source. She was designed for her to see your reliance on the source so that you can so she can trust you as a source.
Spit. I mean we flowing right now, so that's gonna be a good clip right there. I think it's interesting, right? When I'm looking at some of these statistics, I don't think I'm gonna touch. It says where are black men with jobs and kind of speaks towards the top metro areas and things of that nature. So this might be a tidbit for women real quick. If you're in certain cities, you're going to have more options. And if you're in other cities, you're going to have less options, right? Top 5 metro areas. Where are the black men with jobs compared to black women? I think this is interesting because it says nationwide, there are 93 black men with full-time jobs for every 100 black women with full-time jobs, but that number can vary greatly depending on the location. So let's stop right there. I'm not even gonna get into the statistic yet. You're seeing a generational change where men were always earners and making the money.
Yeah.
And now that women are in the workplace, women in the workforce, they earning. So as black men, what we have to do a better job of is increasing your marketplace value, maintaining, even establishing a marketplace value, regardless of how much you earn. Not saying that you should earn less or not be ambitious and aspirational. Absolutely. You got to have some other qualities to balance out the fact that she might make more money. Again, I talked about protection earlier. I ain't never had a woman in my life ask me to protect her, because that comes with the job.
Yeah.
We talked about sex. You can't be lame. You can't be a lame lay talking about you want a woman. And we aren't going to digress too much into that. Shout out to me not using certain terminology for the algorithm.
Yes.
I want y'all to watch me on YouTube now. Show this to your children. You got to be able to do something in the sack, homeboy.
Yeah, man.
Especially if you want sex. Come on now. Anyway, there's certain cities where there are men with more jobs than others. This is interesting. The DMV is an interesting area because, again, DMV is an outlier. Mm-hmm. You got women here making more money than across the country. If you look at women here, top 5 earners easy, maybe top 3.
Can I say one thing?
Go ahead.
This is for years, this has been the largest collection of affluent black people in the United States.
Right. So you got to think PG County's always been top 2, 3 in wealthy black counties as a suburb for the District of Columbia. DC, Chocolate City. It's been called Chocolate City for a reason. Gentrification got a big part to say, well, it's white Chocolate City right now. You got your Hershey's cookies and cream here now. But DC is an outlier. The DMV is an outlier. You can't use this area. So that's why I'm glad. And you see it in the statistics too.
It's fantasy land.
You know what I'm saying? Here is different. You know what I'm saying? You go to the club, you can meet a woman that's rolling to make $200K. But anyway, no disrespect to the lady. Shout out to you. I love your sexual liberalness in this modern era. Anyway, top 5 metro areas. Where are the black men with jobs? San Diego, California, Seattle, Washington, Denver, Colorado, Phoenix, Arizona, Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is compared to black women, right? Ain't none of that. Look, none of that's east of the Mississippi.
Nah.
The East Coast is vicious. You don't hear no New York, no DC, no Philly, no Baltimore, Charlotte, Atlanta, Miami. None of that's on the list. So, ladies on the East Coast, your options are different. Fellas on the East Coast, your options are different too, because you're dealing with a different type of earning woman. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation, is because we can't, as black men, have the same standards as our pops and our grandpops. They're not dealing with the same landscape. We're dealing with women that are highly educated, highly earning, especially when you look at some of these northeastern cities. Now, you look at the bottom 5, Milwaukee, Birmingham, Alabama, Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas, Cleveland, Ohio, St. Louis, Missouri, right? So now you tap into the Midwest and you're going into the South, where you see some of the more poor states, less opportunities. Again, you don't see nothing on the East Coast. That's interesting when you assess a collective or a macro dating scene or landscape. Yeah. It's not the same everywhere. Mm-hmm. Women in certain cities, you're going to be dealing with certain things. Men in certain cities, you're going to be dealing with certain things, and vice versa accordingly. This matters. All women don't have, all men don't have the same options in women. Like, you can't, for you to be a man in the DMV, dealing with a woman that can make substantially more money than you, your foundation can't be solely in that.
Yeah.
Not saying that you are lacking financially on your income earning potential, but you can't be leading with your wallet with a woman that got more money than you. What else do you provide?
Said it. That's what it comes to. Quality people tend to find their way to each other. Your qualities are outside of your financial accolades and earnings. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, with a quality person, their financial accolades and earnings are a byproduct of the quality version of themselves that they bring into life. Good
point. Very good point.
So we have to learn to separate ourselves and disassociate ourselves from the material world. It's fleeting.
Extremely.
It's fleeting. I don't care how much muscle you put behind your acquisitions and your degrees and all that stuff. You know, one snap of the fingers, especially if you're not sovereign and self-sufficient, it can all disappear. I was just talking to Eric yesterday, and he told me about a woman who was on a 10-year run with the company, and one unquestionable decision got her out of there. And that's why we can't have our identities in the material world and valuing each other on material worldly things. It's going to be the qualities in the person that's going to stand the test of time and determine your quality of life. So the only way to assess the qualities in another person is for you to have those qualities in yourself as well. Like, everything is exact in life. Everything that we get and we can tolerate, we are a reflection of.
This is very true.
And so, you know, as sovereign and masculine men, we don't blame women for anything. Because if we let the wrong woman into our space that's negatively affecting our quality of life, we didn't have an identity, like I said before, and we already had a shaky quality of life anyway. And that's how she was able to be comfortably in our space.
It's a hell of a point.
Because we were just as shaky as her. And so once you understand that life gives you exactly what you are, everything that you can tolerate is a reflection of who you are. It's a revelation of what you've evolved into. Then everything will come into focus in terms of why you're not getting the outcomes with the type of women that you want. Forget all this higher earning stuff, man. Like, it's cool, but at the end of the day, that's not going to give you a quality of life. You know, the material world, once again, it's fleeting, but the things that will stand the test of time are your qualities. And so to build quality relationships, we need more quality people that can recognize each other. And so as a man, yeah, you're gonna have sovereignty. You're gonna have a desire to be sovereign and to provide for a woman, not because the world says so, because your qualities determine that's your mindset right there. It's coming from the inside out, and that's the whole point of what I'm saying.
Intrinsic value.
Yeah, men, you have to have an awareness of yourself, and you have to develop yourself from the inside out. If you're doing it from the outside in, it's flimsy. It has no substance. It has no foundation, and it will always fall apart. So you're not a suitable match for a high-level, sovereign, self-sufficient, self-identified woman until you become that yourself, until you possess those qualities. So men, stop chasing the bag and chase the character and the qualities that will get you the bag and allow you to keep the bag. Because a lot of people, like we were talking about, they try to get things by any means. If you get something and you're not qualified for it, that means you manipulated to get it. And anytime you manipulate to get something, there's no foundation to it, so it will be short-lived.
Right.
So you want to become a sustainable man. You want to create sustainable results. That means you get things that are in alignment with your character and your qualities. And that's when you can have lasting success. And that's when a woman who is elevated, she can identify you as a safe space because of your qualities.
Yep.
And so this is great. I love the assessment and the analytics, and it's great because there's even an additional layer in terms of qualities, meaning that some men do fit within the framework of these things, but the quality men are not going to fit within those statistics right there,
right? Because
they're bringing a better version of themselves to life.
It's certain things that these statistics can't quantify.
Exactly.
You can't quantify. You hear me? I'm gonna always talk about moral compass, emotional intelligence, discipline, certain things that you value in a man that you can't look at with his salary or what he drives or where he lives or what he wears. It's who he is. And you have to be able to assess that as a woman. Can you assess that? But again, we talking about men. Can you provide the value? Can you look in the mirror and understand your value? KRS One said something that I identified with, especially when I got laid off. You know, I worked at I worked at one job for 17 years. So that's an old way of doing things in a sense. You know what I'm saying? People don't do that anymore. Even to this day, you know what I'm saying? Like, even in our generation, a lot of people haven't had one job for that long. So, I worked in the grocery store, bruh.
We bumped into each other, man.
Dog, like, I wasn't leaving with my wallet. Like, all the affinity I've ever had with women comes from me being me.
There you have it.
I've told women several, you need some money, go get them. Bring me back some. I ain't pimping though. I'm not. I'm just, opportunistic. I'm a life consultant. Don't send the feds after me. I'm a life consultant. I can help you manage some things now.
Elevate your life, woman.
You know what I'm saying? But because one thing I've always known, what's the saying? Like you'll never, what is it? You'll never get,
women chasing money.
Yeah. You'll never get, what is it? You'll never get
women chasing money, but you'll always get women when you're chasing money.
So something to that effect. I can't think about it right now. You know what I'm saying? The articulation of it. But again, see, you can't put a dollar amount on ambition. Even when you've spoken to us this several times. Even when you're not where you're at, she's always watching you. Mm-hmm. She's watching what you're working towards, what your habits are. Like, it's one thing to even have ambition. Do you have successful habits? I've had to learn that with managing certain things, whether it's exercise, diet, smoking, drinking, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, you can't let things, you have to be in control. So when you understand your intrinsic value and you have that, and especially when you have the understanding of it to where you can build on it and you can become the better version of yourself daily. Oh, she's watching because she has her experience with other men as the reference point.
Yeah, and I want to say something to that if I can.
Go ahead.
The same woman who gave me the reality that I could have a choice to become a better man. Mm-hmm. That allowed me to choose and look at myself and saw how I short-sighted her and I mishandled her. She's the only woman that saw more in me than I saw in myself. And so I'm gonna get
that's real.
I'm gonna get to that, but I'm gonna make a concrete statement. Mm-hmm. As you're ascending as a black man and you have vision and you're creating results, the woman can actually see more. The right woman, the woman that's calibrated for you, calibrated to you, and chosen for you, is going to be able to see the end, even when you can't see the end of where your efforts are taking you.
Say that again.
The right woman is going to be calibrated to you so that she can see the end in your efforts, even if you can't see the end and where your efforts are going to take you. So the right woman is in your future. She's observing your qualities. She's observing your work ethic. She's observing the nature of who you are as a man. And the right woman, the visionary woman who's not caught up in the right now of the material world, can observe your progress and your habits, like you said, and she can come to a concrete conclusion about where you're going to land. Mm-hmm. And to bring that into focus, I remember doing everything, man. I was I was playing professional basketball. I was working as a substitute teacher. Mm-hmm. I was still doing my book signings when I could. I was getting 3-4 hours of sleep, writing my next book. Like, I was locked in, and I was working, it got to a point where I was working 7 days a week, and I would chill with my girlfriend. She was in medical school. I was a budding author and motivational speaker. We were a good match, and I remember being exhausted working those 5 days a week, in the school, plus, doing my basketball and all that other stuff, and doing my book signings on the weekends, and staying, at her place. And, I just remember, like, I would come in from my book signings and she's like, oh, it's our anniversary. And I ain't got no clue about none of that stuff. We up on Georgia Ave in some Mexican restaurant, and she dragged me out there. And she wasn't upset because I was working so hard. And I remember her saying, she was just like, you're going to make it. She was like, you work too hard not to make it. I was struggling. I couldn't see the end, but the right woman is going to observe you in totality and not be fixated in the immediate material world, and she's going to be able to see your end. And that's how you know you have the right woman. If you're a man of ambition, vision, and purpose, then you have the right to identify the right woman that shows up in your life by her ability to see your future based on your current efforts and the results that you're compiling. But she's watching your blind spots, so she can see the end result that you're building that you can't see. That's the right woman.
That's that vision.
But you have to give the right woman something to see.
Right.
And that's on us.
Right.
That's why we have to take personal responsibility for every outcome that we experience.
We got to do better. I want to read a couple more statistics, right? Because that was a hell of a point. Like I said, there has to be a personal level of accountability first. You know, like we regardless of what you want, you desire, there's no entitlement. I tell people all the time, like, I know you feel the same way, and our actions have spoken. We could have been married or had, especially could have just had children based on the landscape of how we're, you know, carrying before marrying, right? But when you locked in on that goal, that vision, and you have a purpose, especially as you evolve daily, that evolves daily, you're not going to waver on that end result. You're going to keep working towards, and the right woman will see that. Now let's get back into some statistics, right? Relationships, black men age 15 or older. Black men, all men are kind of even, with divorced at 10% black men, 9% all men. Widowed is very small. I think that's like at 3. Separated is small. Black men 3, all men 2. Currently married as of 2021. Black men 33%, all men 50%. That's a 17% difference. That's significant. And at the same time, never married, black men 50%, all men 37%. So that means all men are at a third and we're at half.
You said 57?
No, as far as never married, black men are at 50%.
Okay.
All men are at 37%.
Okay.
So I mentioned, once you get into the double digits with the statistics, you start to see a noticeable, quantifiable divide. Currently married as of 2021, black men 33%. That means a third of us are married. All men 50%. That means half of other men are married. It flips on the other side. Never married, black men 50%, all men 37%. That's not all on women.
Nah.
We can't blame women for why some of us aren't currently married or never been married. Now, currently married, you got some divorce statistics that tie into that. So that's one thing. We know that black men, black women lead groups of women as far as least likely to be married, most likely to be divorced, things of that nature, right? So that's a conversation to hold black women accountable. We're not talking about that. 50% of black men have never been married. Half of us have never walked down the aisle, and this is age 50. They start this shit. Pardon my friend. They start this sugar at age 15.
Yeah.
That's significant.
I just want to say one thing. I want to continue, man. That is a twofold equation right there. Because I look at men like us, and maybe I can speak for you. We could have been married, meaning that we met women that we desired enough to be married. But, you know, let's take into account that 80% of men are on the wrong side of divorce as well. 80% of women initiate divorces. So you have
factors in a lot.
You have men bypassing the BS and the toxicity and the signs that are clear indication of incompatibility, and they go past it because of love. And then the woman doesn't desire them the same way they desire the woman. And then I want to get into it a little bit. Her lack of desire for you shape shifts into complaints, that every time you fulfill a concern or a complaint, there's something else, and there's something else.
It's never ending.
Because she doesn't desire you and you're not her first choice. So a lot of men who are married, it's not an accomplishment, even though we're at a deficit in terms of 50%. You said never going to get married?
But just never married.
Never married, right? That's still, that can't be viewed as a deficit, because a lot of those men were intelligent enough to love a woman and understand that she didn't love him back the same way. She didn't value him the same way. So we chose ourselves. So a lot of this is, you can look at it from like I said, twofold. Maybe you don't have appeal to the dating market and to women, and that's something that you have to work on, developing a vision, identity, different things we worked on. And there's another side of the coin where men have mastered themselves and they're intelligent enough to take a hard look around and observe their experiences with women and understand the power and the importance of being a woman's first choice. So there are men who could have been married, but they chose not to because they chose themselves, because they haven't encountered that level of mutual desire and compatibility. So you can't necessarily, feel so bad about yourself if you fit within some of the framework of these stats right here, because I can just say the only catalyst outside of the statistics is, do you have peace? As a man taking responsibility, you might have had some suitable women who put up with your BS, love the hell out you, and you couldn't get it right, and you forced them to choose themselves. That's when you have unrest.
Got to raise my hand right there.
Yeah, but there's an opportunity in unrest to improve yourself so that you can choose the right woman and have peace.
Absolutely.
But then on the other side of it, you've done the work, and you might be on the unmarried spectrum, but then you have peace, because you knew that every woman that you could have married would have been a decrease in quality of life. And and
that's true as well.
And
that's true, very true as well.
A uncompromisingly stupid decision that you would have crashed and burned. You know what I'm saying? So these statistics are important, but I just wanted to bring more perspective to different men who fit within these different spectrums, to understand that, even if you fit within that pool, as a man, take accountability and say, I could have been, but I wasn't, because I didn't become. That's masculinity, and that's how you can change, and that's how you can become. But then on the other side of it, you've become, but since you have an awareness, too much is given, much is required. You know what I'm saying? So now that you have an awareness, you're seeing things in women that you can't unsee, even though if you got down on one knee, they would accept your proposal.
Right.
So really master yourself, learn from your experiences, let there be a catalyst to become better and develop an identity. But on the other side of it, once you've mastered yourself, continue to be at peace with the decisions that you've made, because you have a great quality of life.
That's the formula right there. I think it just has to be some level of culpability, accountability in your outcomes. But I think these statistics are speaking from my perspective. It speaks towards our American experience as Black people too, because this wasn't always the norm. Going towards another statistic where, when you look at the 50s, 60s, this one says, it really speaks towards Black men being married more than white men, more in the 50s. And that's where the trend started to go down versus up. We have to look into that more, because I know we had a extremely high marriage rate in the 60s. But since then, and I'll always say this, like if you navigate recent history, I say recent history because I'm one of the subjects I like to study is history, and recent history to me is 50, 60, 75 years when you look at the scope of, thousands of years of people being on the earth.
Yeah.
And longer, really. But just to quantify a time frame, the past 50, 60 years, when you look at the change was us integrating into the American caste system, integrating into American society. We adopted the ways of America versus when we had less. I saw a story, for example, when we had less, we had more. I saw a story, a white dude was telling this joint too about how black people saved Cadillac. I don't think I sent it to you, but he was talking about how pre-depression, or like going into the depression, car dealerships were segregated. They were racist, so they didn't sell Cadillacs to black folks. And at the same time, black folks couldn't bank with banking institutions. We had to put our money in shoe boxes and under the mattress. So, long story short, Cadillac, Henry Ford bought a couple of companies. They failed, and Cadillac, I think somehow he got an ownership into that or something. I know Henry Ford's name came up. But they decided at some point during the Depression in the 30s, some point there, they decided to be the first dealership to allow black people to buy cars. And black people saved the company, because during the Great Depression, people lost money because of the banks and things of that nature, where we didn't have that, so we could buy the car. He said a quote where he said, I think he said a black dude said it, where he's like, I knew white men were poor, struggling, when I saw them going through my trash, in a sense, like literally, because we had economy, we had to do business together, we had we had grocery store, everything we had to buy from each other, so we produced for each other. When we integrated in the late 60s, on top of our leadership being taken away from us with Black Panther Party, Christian Church, NOI,
Martin Malcolm,
Huey P. Newton, the Black Panthers, when they took our black male leadership away, you see how things transition. Matter of fact, this is the perfect time to go into this statistic. The war on drugs and its effect on black marriage in the 1980s and 90s. Gen Z, this is what you come from. This is what the next gen. I'm not necessarily talking to our generation about this, even though our generation needs to understand it, because we lived it as children. We were born into this. Reaganomics and both Bushes and Clinton. When you look at the percentages of black men in prison, and how it spiked. When you look at the early 80s, so keep in mind, these are older millennials now. There's some young millennials that was born in the in the 90s. Early 90s, you know what I'm saying? But early to mid 90s, 93s, 94s, stuff like that. But it says, hold on, I'm trying to read the stats right. Excuse me. Okay, I got it. So, black men in prison from the 1900s up into the 40s, 50s, even 60s was less than 10% of our population. Even if you go into the 70s, and so it's kind of starts at like 1910, and the prison population for black men was 23.3. So that's 23,000, right? And you see a incline, but not a significant one, to where it maybe got into the 30s up until the 60s and 70s. When you start to go from late 70s into 80, up into the year 2000, by the year 2000, it was 572 black men in prison. That's not happenstance, people.
That's a concerted effort.
That's a concerted effort. That is a desired effort based on the system you live under. Think about all of the available men that were taken away from all of the available black men that were taken away from black women during this period of time, and how that shaped the psyche of black women as you're being integrated into a white supremacist dominant society and culture. You can't not say that has you can't say that doesn't have an impact. That absolutely has an impact. You can't tell me in the 1970s, our prison population was in the 30,000s, and it goes to 500,000 in 20 years. How does all of those men being taken away? Of course, some of those men are fathers. They're all sons to somebody, brothers to somebody, cousins, uncles to somebody. You think that doesn't impact our relationship with our women? That's where the narratives, again, I wanted to destroy narratives in this conversation. Right. That's where narratives come from, that we ain't shit. Or that we only drug dealers or drug addicts or hustlers or killers and all this and all that.
Yeah.
That's the era that we grew up in, and we still survived through it. Yes. We have to be able to understand these things. Yes. This is why statistics matter. You can't lock up 500,000 of a people and think it doesn't impact that populace. Period.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real thing. I mean, one thing when Hillary Clinton ran against Biden, she had to bring old Billy out, and he had to apologize for his exorbitant incarceration of black men in these drug initiatives and things like that. That spoke to something earlier that I said and we discussed with the even the black men who escape that metric right there, who get into the corporate space. The black woman still elevates at a higher and faster percentage. So I want to just give a little perspective. So okay, the concerted effort to integrate us, it's like, okay, we can let the guard down, right? People don't understand that MLK, people like that, they were funded by white people. So there was a chess game being played. And even MLK admitted after it was all said and done. He said he walked us into the lion's den or something like that, that he said. So, their dollars, their motives, it culminated into a plan to separate us because they understood what we were most powerful, which is together. So that's when the marriage rates disintegrated, when they were able to, it's not a coincidence, okay? So they killed our black leaders, everyone that we mentioned.
Gotta say that. They destroyed our black male leadership.
The FBI even had to admit and pay out the King family and things like that, So that's no secret, even before they admitted that. But let's look at the sequence of things, right? So right after they kill our most influential and powerful black leaders, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr., most powerful and influential, who collectively integrated the black consciousness, unified the black consciousness to think as one, and subsequently experience the outcomes of a unified thinking people. They knew their power was in dividing us.
Yeah, divide and conquer. They
said we're never going to allow another Martin or Malcolm to rise up.
I ain't seen the sense.
No more messiahs. No more messiahs. And so right after that, drugs and guns come into the community.
And feminism.
And the white woman introduced that to the black woman as well.
That started in the 70s.
Yes, and as soon as the white woman got the support in terms of her ability to vote and all that stuff from the black woman, she abandoned them. So,
Title IX,
like you said, drugs, guns, exorbitant prison sentences, and feminism. Black woman, you don't need a black man. We're gonna lock him up. We're gonna make him look like he ain't shit. We're gonna make it so you can't depend on him. And then we're gonna offer you this welfare. As long as there's no black
social program.
As long as there's no black man in the house, we'll take care of you. Don't worry about things. You don't have to go out there and be.
We saw that in TV shows.
Oh, black men ain't nothing like that. It was
literally again, that's why I always have a concerted effort to destroy, false narratives towards black men, because they simply aren't true. Like, you can see here statistically, between 1980 and the year 2000, you locked up at least 500,000 of us or more.
That's
not by accident.
That was the end result. Like
that's after the 60s.
This is how it went down,
man.
This is simple, man. They took out our leaders. Can we say that word? Government dropped the guns in the community and dropped the drugs at the same time. You have a bunch of impoverished people. Yeah, they're going to take each other out. They're going to do our job for us. And the fallout, the ones that survive, they get a little bit of crack on them, while the white people are doing the cocaine. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit of crack, which is a watered down version of the more potent drug that it's derived from. Mm-hmm. We're going to get them exorbitant prison sentences.
Right.
And so that's how you see the black man disappearing from the household, and the clear divide of he is a less valuable entity than you. That's what we see today. So we have a segment of black men that are doing very well for themselves today. Mm-hmm. But the lens and the perspective of the black woman, who is linear to us, mm-hmm. is that she's better than us because she's so used to see us in an inferior light.
She's seen it for 2 generations. At this point,
there's nothing we can do to make her view us in the light that's aligned with who we are.
You've seen your grandmother, your mother in certain situations be the leader of the family, the leader of the household.
And so I don't want to get too much into this,
we're not going to digress.
Yeah, but it's just like, there's a lot of black men, and I made a video years ago why the highly successful black man is the most disrespected. Mm-hmm. Had a high value, highly successful, and he's disrespected because black women don't even want to believe that you exist. Meaning that when they encounter you, you invalidate every conversation that she mm-hmm. has at brunch and at the get-togethers with her girlfriends. How black men ain't shit. Mm-hmm. And so when they meet you, their first course of action is that they have to invalidate you, because it goes against the narrative that they believe. Meaning that if they acknowledged you, then they would have to acknowledge their inability to pair with a man like you.
Or to take it deeper, they would have to go to the root of why. They would have to go to the root of, why do I look at black men this way?
But it's hard to go to the root if you think you're superior than him.
Right. And that's the challenging part as far as the disconnect. This is a manufactured disconnect that isn't a new agenda. It's just new in success when you look at the scope of things historically. That's why I use recent history and go back to the 60s. Mm-hmm. The 60s is 65 years ago. Mm-hmm. We've had a terrible, and again, I could use some expletives here, but again, shout out to YouTube.
Nah, we good.
You know what I'm saying? We've had a hell of an experience, to say the least, for centuries. Mm-hmm. Here. That wasn't the first time, or more recent history. The 1980 to 2000 wasn't the first concerted effort to divide the black man and woman. It's the first concerted effort that was successful.
Yeah.
And what they figured out, when we say we talking about the white supremacist power structure, they realized that we get the man out of there. Mm-hmm. We got the women and children.
Exactly, because the indoctrination has to come.
It's too powerful.
It has to come through the man if he's standing at the door.
And I'm gonna teach my household what I like, and I want to go back to the 60s for to mention that there was a collective unity even with indifference. There were black nationalists, black Islam, black Christianity, black radicalists, but in the indifference and the difference in opinions and perspectives and views spiritually and religiously, there was a unity. Everything had black first.
Which encouraged us to see where we unify.
So even if we differed amongst each other, We were a collective. We were a part of a group. And that's one thing that's missing now. Black African American gets thrown into America, but everybody else operates as a group. Japanese American, you see Chinatown, Little Italy. Miami has Hialeah and Cuban, Haitian sex. You have Russian, Irish sex in cities. We don't have that. Gentrification was in the same neighborhoods, or has been in the same neighborhoods where you see these statistics at, attacking us. The place that was called a project was called a project for a reason. Come on, man. So to circle it back into our experience as black men and women today, and especially as a focus on black men, you got to understand stuff like this to be able to deal with what you're dealing with modern women. When you understand that she might have come from a household that didn't have no black man in it. She might not have had a father that was a stand-up, earning, leading man, much less a grandfather and a father. No different than some of the black men. A lot of the black men might not have come from a household or lineage where you had your. I had on my mother's side my great grandfather, didn't have my grandfather, but on my father's side, the lineage of men was solid to this day, solid. That's why I can push back on narratives because it's not true to me. I don't see it. Yeah, I mean, you know, might get a little extra poothy every now and then.
No doubt.
Which happens with desirable men, and I'll always say that. So that ties more into the discipline of a man. You're not less than of a provider, a leader, a teacher, a catalyst to a family, a nuclear family, or a bigger family because of that. Other men do it too. So stop this overinflated value of black men cheating. I got to find that statistic too, but you know, we get to that time point. So this is only the first conversation. We'll do this one again.
Exactly.
Because there's some, you know, there's some other things we got to touch on too. But this is so important because the false narratives have to stop, and they have to stop with us first. We have to push back against it. Whether that's black men pushing back against false narratives with black women and black women pushing back against false narratives with black men. We've reeled out, we've several things we've said today are factual. Period. You might not like it as a black woman based on your anecdotal experience and what you have had as representation as a black man. That doesn't mean it's true objectively on a macro level. It's not. It's not. It is what it is.
Yes. You
have to absolutely look at there's a 20-year span. When you look at the 1980 to 2000, that explains everything right now.
There it is, man. There it is. And the beautiful part is that I just want to, you know, look at things positively because I still have hope. I still believe in black men elevating themselves. I still believe in black marriage. I believe in the outliers that operate outside of a lot of the statistics, even though we have to address the majority. I don't have too much else to say. I just think that the black man that values himself enough to elevate outside of the spectrum of how they portray us, that black man will be recognizable to the woman, the black woman who values him enough to prepare herself for him and acknowledge that he exists. Everything is exact. And we still do see black marriages in the midst of these dismal statistics. Black love is a thing. These statistics and agendas cannot control the heart, meaning that regardless of everything, hearts will connect. But they'll stay connected based on your preparation and value that you have for one another. So I just want to just say, value yourself. And by virtue of you valuing yourself, you will value your most likely companion, that black man or black woman, to understand her enough so that you can pair yourself with her. As you value yourself, you stay your course. You don't give up. You don't lose hope because of these statistics. And as you move forward, you will encounter the woman who is a suitable match for you, who values you and views you the exact way that you value and view yourself, man.
Absolutely. Like I said, we basically, I want to say this because this is going to lead into the next conversation. Black marriage, because I'm keeping the statistics up because I know it's so hot and heavy with the disconnect with it's like just spewed venom from emotion.
Yeah.
Without any type of reference point to anything that's true. Black marriage in 2021. Married black men. 85% have a black wife. Mm-hmm. Married black women, 93% have a black husband. So we'll continue this conversation because, of course, it's necessary, and we're gonna end off on a positive note. We're destroying all narratives for black people, child, man, woman. Matter of fact, we'll do a whole nother conversation destroying the black narratives for black women, because I know some black women might think that we're a little too critical because of our level of honesty and transparency and how much we care. They might not be able to see that part. Mm-hmm. So we'll get, we'll address that. We'll give y'all that one, and we're gonna end off on that note.
Yeah.
We have to destroy the narratives that are dividing us. We're tying into narrative. We don't control major mass media. We control less than 1% of major mass media. So the narratives we see, we buying into it, and it's part of the same game plan. That's no different than the statistics that locked up 500,000 and or almost 600,000 black men from the 80s, 1980 to 20. Never mind all of the other men that have been in a position to have one foot in in jail or out, whether it's probation and different, stigmas and things of that nature. So, you know, I'm gonna bring it to you. So this is what it is, man. I got my guy, Matthew C Horne, author, dating coach, motivational speaker. We got more for y'all, man. We about to check out, man. Much love. You know what I'm saying? I want y'all to understand this all comes from a place of love and solution-based thinking. So we can keep arguing all we want on social media. We're going to have conversations that are leading towards solutions for our people, man. With that being said, much love. We out, baby.
Yeah, he'll cut it right there.
Come on, man. You don't fuck with it, but man, can't fuck with us.
Hey, we did this shit.
How long was that, sir?
158.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
I'm right behind you, too.
Come on.
158.